Good evening, everyone, and welcome to this project showcase from India Foundation for the Arts. IFA, India Foundation for the Arts, as many of you know, is an independent philanthropy that supports and implements projects across arts research, practice, and education. In the last 3 decades, we've supported over 950 arts and culture projects across a variety of outcomes, leading to workshops, platforms, films, publications, performances, and much more. And all of these find a home in the IFA archive. From time to time, we organize events like this, project showcases, to bring projects that speak to each other together, to share the journey and processes that unfolded through the project period. And today we have a very interesting duo from two different sets of projects that we brought together in this evening's sharing. We have projects that looked at building solidarities, building capacities, as well as networks of care across two very diverse cultural practices. To share a little bit more about our presenter and to also about our two presenters and about the program under which the two projects are being presented from, I would like to invite John Xaviers, Program Officer for Arts Practice and Project 560. Over to you, John.
Thank you, Menaka. So today we have two artists with us, Anurupa Roy and Avril Stormy Unger. So before I introduce them, I will briefly talk about IFA's Arts Practice Program. IFA's Arts Practice Program is for artists to expand the present range of practices in new directions in any form of art through productions, explorations, etc. There are 4 categories within this program. So today's project showcase is about the arts platforms category. It is for artists to create situations of bringing artists together. It can be in the form of a lab or a workshop or a residency to learn from each other, to inspire each other. So let's say that the arts platforms category is for the artists and by the artists. Now the arts platforms category is open for applications and the deadline is by the end of this month, August 31st. So today we have Anurupa Roy and Avril Stormy Unger with us to talk about their arts platforms that they created with their fellow artists. Anurupa's project was about puppetry and Avril's project was about electronic music production and DJing. Anurupa Roy is a puppeteer, puppet designer and director of Puppet Theatre, and she co-founded the Katkata Puppet Trust in 1998. She has directed more than 40 puppet productions for Katkata. Over to you, Anurupa, to share about the arts platforms that we energized.
Thank you. Thank you so much, John. I hope you can hear me. Yeah. So I have a little presentation ready. And before I begin, I just wanted to say that the Arts Lab, this was the second Arts Lab, which IFA had, the second one is what IFA had supported. The first one was in 2023. The year Katkatha had turned 25, where we really started to introspect about what our journey had been and what the key challenges had been. And it really was the biggest challenge had been taking risks and failing, because every time you create new work, you're putting yourself out there. It means that this work might never happen again, might never get seen again, and you've invested time, energy, effort into it. And the question was, does that sometimes make us as artists not take big enough risks? And is that also a very lonely process? So we came up with the first lab, and a lot of our artists answered the call, and they were not just puppeteers, they came from multiple backgrounds. So this second one came from a space where we already had learnings from the first puppet lab. And we looked at maybe expanding the kind of participants who could come in. So it was 50% puppeteers and 50% non-puppeteers, which was a lot more than the first lab. And I have a small presentation where I'd just like to share what happened. Could we share the PPT? Thank you. The Puppet Lab culminates in a festival which is called the Puppet Fringe. The next slide, please. And the main aim of the lab is to really have a place to try and fail fabulously if you have to. It's a space of risk taking. So anybody who wanted to try new cutting edge work, who wanted to look for collaborators, uh, were welcome to join the space. Puppets were at the focus of this place, but the definition of puppetry was its widest possible, not a doll with strings attached to it, but any material that could be animated is something we looked at as a puppet, which means people also came in from the area of digitally animating things, animating in objects like musical instruments, creating music specifically for the area of puppet theater, masks, dead material, material theater. One of the key elements is the constant collaboration and partnership within the space. So we also wanted people to go beyond the step, to start from the step of training and then trying their first production, because there are two puppet schools in India. The first one was in 2019, which was again with the support of India Foundation for the Arts, and the second one had run more recently last year. And we felt like many people who go to art schools or who go to puppet, in this case, the puppet school, still have a fear of starting their own companies, starting their own projects. And we felt that the seed bed was very necessary. So the lab was essentially a seed bed. Very importantly, it celebrates the fringiness of puppetry. Puppetry is not a mainstream stream art. It looks at something quite subliminal. It looks at the theater of dead material. It often is uncomfortable. It's burlesque. It's comic. It's somewhere between comedy and very dark. So we were looking at how do we celebrate this? How do we keep this intact? And how do we bring in energies from the other fields, quirky people who are experimenting? How do we invite them in? So musicians, writers, designers, playwrights, visual artists were all invited to apply to the lab. And we saw many collaborations take place. And the first lab alumni became a very big and important part of the second lab. The next slide, please. So it started with an open call. This was the open call. A poster went out and people applied. We had almost 40 applications this time, and we shortlisted 12 people for the final lab, which was in New Delhi. The next slide, please. It began with, it's on 46 applications, and people were from across the country. There were 2 international participants, and all of this happened in Black Box Okhla in New Delhi from January 5th to 20th. The next slide, please. We had multiple facilitators. This is the list of facilitators. We began with looking at what were ways of building narratives traditionally. So from scrolls to ads to one-line narratives to silent mimed narratives. What did it mean? So really going back to many skeletal skills embedded in puppet theater. We had script writing teachers, basic puppet building, some experimental puppet building, new materials, lots of recycled materials. So the space was full of kilos and kilos of newspaper and cardboard boxes. We stressed a lot on thinking out of the box. So if you're thinking of a linear idea, how to break it down, how to view the story from many angles, how to insert this a puppet into a story, what story works for a puppet and doesn't work for a puppet, what is meant only for an actor, and very importantly, what is this incredible relationship between puppet and puppeteer. So what is the dramaturgy of puppetry? And with skills like music, scripting, and shadow puppets. The next slide, please. This is some images from the very beginning of the workshop. So everybody storyboarded their ideas. Each day, the facilitators would come in and people would work on um, experiments and collaborations. People worked in pairs and then in trios and then in groups of fours. The idea was to mix everyone up and infuse new ideas and not immediately start working on one idea, but experiment a lot, play with a lot. But at the end of 2 days, we would keep coming back to the main idea that they had proposed to the lab. So the main ideas began to develop quite early in the process. The next slide, please. As you can see, lots of newspaper, lots of tape, people were making miniature scenographies, telling stories with little story boxes. Newspaper puppets were built, which were being animated. The next slide, please. And there are lots of images you will see of the first experiments with shows and show ideas. Sometimes someone would share their story idea and then another artist would respond to that story in their own way. So new ideas would keep popping up each day. The next slide, please. The shadow sessions were very interesting, and it's not surprising that at the end of it, many of the productions which came out of the lab were actually shadow puppets. It became an almost new visual language that people had discovered. Many of the applicants this time were shadow puppeteers, were visual artists. So they immediately took to shadow puppetry. These are from two different artists, one who was working with bamboo and one who had brought in his own illustrated storybook and wanted to turn it into a puppet production. The next slide, please. There was lots of site-specific work with material. As you can see on the right, there was a poi. On the left, they had lit different parts of the hall, and this is just newspaper sculptures, but the light was the storyteller. The next slide, please. These are very soon, by the 6th or the 7th day, some concrete story ideas and puppets started to emerge. People started working towards their individual projects. The next slide, please. And what was really wonderful is that everybody would support each other's projects, both with ideas and with technically realizing the performances. The next slide. So these were individual solo storytelling pieces. The one on the left is a shadow piece. The one on the right is a tabletop storytelling piece. The next slide, please. On the left, again, you see a little simulated city. It was a little model of Bangalore. On the right is puppets created with simple newspapers with multiple sets and the puppets would enlarge and diminish in size. The puppeteer had a relationship with the puppet. So a lot of these experiments began to happen. People were influencing each other with their ideas. The next slide, please. On the last day, the ready ideas were pitched to a jury. So we had, out of the 12 participants, 11 decided to pitch their ideas. The next slide, please. These were some of the pitches. They were very site specific. We used the entire Ookla black box space. Some were on stage, some were in the lobby, some were in the kitchen, some were in the corridors. The next slide, please. People were weaving in through performances. Oh, there's one, the image on the right is actually where the lights are stored. So even the storage rooms weren't spared. There were performances even there. The one on the left is one of the alcoves where the artists get ready during a show. So even those were used. The next slide, please. And after that, four of the pitches received a small seed grant, and these were our four grantees. So you have Alia Sinha and Gyanraj Hole, Shobhit Tandon, and Kritika. Alia and Shobita from Delhi, Gyanraj is from Pune, and Kritika is from Bangalore. The next slide, please. Each of the grantees had 2 months to prepare the show, and in this time that they were preparing, some preferred to work from their hometown, some preferred to work in New Delhi. The ones who were in New Delhi were able to work at the Katkatha studio. So our workshop space and our studio space became the space for the shows to be created. The puppets were created there. They also had a dedicated mentor given to them. They could choose from a pool of mentors. They could share their ideas with the mentors, show them pieces of the work, get feedback. And that some of them did this online. The ones in Delhi did this offline. Kritika, who was Bangalore based, had Devosmita, who's a Bangalore based artist, who was her mentor. So it was a very exciting process. And in the last 10 days before the festival, so all of this culminates in the festival. Just before the festival, they all came to New Delhi, lived together at the Katkatha studio, which was very exciting. And it wasn't just the grantees, they had their own teams with them. So somebody would have a musician or a co-actor or a co-puppeteer who would also be living in the space. And they were all creating together, watching each other's work and giving feedback and showing to the mentors. The next slide, please. And that was one of the most special moments, to have everybody together in one space, not sleeping at all, creating at all times, almost sharing a little bit of this nervousness for the festival. And this is the final program of the festival. The 4 shows were Moon of My Own, Last Gombe, Clinical Trials, and What Did I Do Wrong? This became the final festival, and we included another local show which had just premiered, which was called Chehek. So it was a festival of 5 shows. The next slide, please. So what was the most important part of this festival in the lab was how our alumni from the first lab came together. Some of them were in the selection jury of the participants. We had 2 mentors who had been alumni from the lab, which was Devosmita and Aarti, V. Aarti. In the selection jury, we had lab members. We had lab members in the final jury, which selected the grantees. A lot of our lab members from the first and the second lab, even the ones who hadn't received grants, turned up. One of them decided to create merchandise and had a little shop. A lot of them volunteered for the festival. We had 9 schools at the festival for the children's shows. We had 800 people over these 3 days in a smallish venue, because it was the Goethe's Institute in New Delhi. But lots of people turned up. We had lots of professional puppeteers in the audience, and what was really wonderful that this time we were able to invite some producers and presenters. So some of the shows have got programmed into festivals which are upcoming. The next slide, please. And here is a little glimpse of the festival, and I will end with that. It's a short video, and I hope it comes on with all the music. Just to tell you, around the festival was also a small food festival, and all these puppet shops and puppet stalls run by a lot of puppeteers, local puppeteers from Delhi, some of the lab alumni, some of the lab participants, and generally a lot of artists from the community. Is the video...
Darshana, will you please share the video?
Just coming on 1 second.
No
Sure.
worries.
Thank you. Thank you, Anurupa, for sharing, for revealing the process and the behind the scenes. So gives a certain kind of insight into what goes behind.
I hope we can see a little bit of the fun also that happened during the festival.
Yeah.
Because that.
And there are lots of questions on how you applied and how, so we'll get to that at the end of the session.
The sound is not
Dash-
playing. Can you please
Yeah.
enable the sound, please?
You'll have to reshare.
Sure, sure.
I can see some of the questions. Great.
Still no sound, Deepak?
Hearing the sound.
No.
Yeah, so Deepak, when you sorry about this, when you stop share, when you reshare on the right, you'll find something saying optimize for sound or play with sound. You have to click that.
Deepak, I'll share it. You can stop.
Just to give you a little context in the meantime, a lot of the people you see in the audience are actually alumni who were either working at the festival or had come from quite far away to attend the festival, which was quite lovely for us. Some had come from Lucknow, some from Allahabad, some from Bangalore, which was a really wonderful part. It was a surprise for us, but it was lovely.
This one? No! How about this one?
These are some of the shows.
Okay, na? Ba.
Hi. Hi. This is Nirmala and this is Kritika. I am one of the recipients of Katkata's Puppet Incubation Lab, which happened this January. Nirmala was made during the lab and she is my first ever puppet. I think the lab primarily worked because we're all together in the same space in the same time. Right now, it's such a luxury to have a bunch of people who are so intimate with their own work. Usually as artists, we kind of are in our own heads about the work, but just having that space to bounce off of your ideas with other people, which is not just your puppet, but actually humans, really gives you an insight into how they are viewing what you're trying to say. But more importantly, you get so much from their work.
Hey, bhai, acha.
थिएटर में पपेट्री का क्या यूज़ हो सकता है और उसे कैसे हम यूज़ कर सकते हैं, इसलिए मैंने अप्लाई किया था इंक्यूबेशन लैब के लिए। तो ये वाला पपेट मुझे वहाँ पे मिला। मेरा लक ये था कि मुझे कटकथा की ग्रांट भी मिली। अनुरूपा ताई ने और इतर इनके जो और लोग थे उन्होंने मुझ पे भरोसा रखा, मुझे वो ग्रांट दी। और यहाँ पे सब मेंटर्स भी हमें फीडबैक देने में होते हैं। हर रोज़ हमारा शो देख के बहुत से फीडबैक्स मिलते हैं और उस पर हम बहुत काम करते हैं। तो मेरा एक्सपीरियंस बहुत कमाल का है और इसको ये पपेट्री को ले जाके पुणे में ले जाके मराठी थिएटर में ज़रूर बहुत बहुत काम करना है।
The unlearning that happened in the first few days was really helpful. The mentors came in with a very different energy of making us, first of all, unlearn and question a lot of things about what we were doing. And then later on in the second half of the lab, the same mentors took up the role of really pushing us forward and pushing us beyond the limits where we were really, I mean, I found it a bit challenging and really helpful. I would definitely want to talk about the time spent at the Katkatha studio. In 4 different rooms, 4 puppeteers are working together and then discuss and talk about each other's ideas and take them forward and support each other with material as well. I mean, it felt really good. You know, in a small studio, it felt like a village has come together to create something for the festival.
It's really brought me back to analog in my fine art, I suppose. And the world of shadow puppetry has just, it's built all these connections in my head, taking like theatre as well as visual arts and then mashing them both together. And I'm really, really excited at the potential this form has.
Now you know why this was called an incubation lab. The puppet fringe and it's nothing is finished without the puppets. Here they are.
लास्ट थॉट्स तो ये है जो मुझको अभी तक जो पूरी लर्निंग के अंदर है वो है किस keep it stupid and simple.
What I think would be really amazing if that an audience member today becomes a participant in the next lab. I think that's my hope for the future, that somebody sees this and thinks, I also want to do it, and then joins.
It seems to have also created collaborations between very, very disciplined, very sort of straight up puppeteers with like real crackpots. And I say that in the best possible way.
Thank you.
Thank you, Anurupa, for sharing your process, revealing the process behind the scenes during your talk. And it was great to see the video to really absorb the energy that was produced during the festival. So we'll take some of the questions at the end of the talk after the next artist's talk. Now we move on to next speaker, artist, Avril. Avril Stormy Unger, also known as Chutney Mary, is a contemporary artist and curator. She works with performance, sound, installation, and community building. She's the founder of Crave, a queer and trans and women-centered music platform. And Flower Tools is a skill-sharing initiative supporting emerging electronic musicians. So over to you, Avril.
Hi, thank you, John, for the intro. And Anurupa, what a lovely presentation that was. Really fun to watch. Can we share my presentation, please? So I got the Arts Platform Project grant for Flower Tools, which, as John said, is like an artist initiative under Crave. And this grant supported 3 editions of Flower Tools. Before the grant, we had done a couple of them. And in September, we will be doing the next one. We started with Flower Tools in March of 2025 in Goa. And then in August, we did one in Bangalore, and then we did the last 3 again in Goa. So Flower Tools falls under Crave. Crave is actually what they call a cultural IP. It is a club series. It started as a club series to showcase queer, trans, and women artists in electronic music and in nightlife. A lot of the scene in underground electronic music is heavily male centered, and I started to feel like there was a gap since a lot of electronic music started off in marginalized communities like queer and Black and trans communities. We decided that the space was kind of empty, so we started our own event called Crave. And as you can see, it is a queer, trans, and women-centered nightlife platform. We are very specific about dance floor safety, and now all our lineups are either queer or women artists. DJs, electronic music producers, visual artists. We have also expanded into visual art in terms of like artist showcase, entrepreneurs, performance artists, all of this coming together. It's now grown into more of like an ecosystem with Crave. Yeah, so under Crave is Flower Tools, and Flower Tools is Crave's education and artist development initiative. The main reason we started Crave is to have more artists in the scene that are making work, because we were looking continuously for queer artists and women artists to put on our lineups, and then we started to notice there aren't that many. So we decided, let's start making them. And that's how we started Flower Tools. So under Flower Tools, we teach, we create opportunities, we provide ongoing mentorship, and we find ways for artists who have just learned or emerging artists to get into the scene. We do this with free workshops. All the workshops are free. DJ workshops. We've done Ableton and music production workshops. We also do showcases where the people who have learned also get to play in a club environment to listen to what their songs sound like if they've produced, or to do DJ sets for the first time with a live audience. We do artist talks and skill sharing sessions. Mentorship is provided even till now. We also do smaller things like press kits and artist portfolios and all of this. And we create some kind of networking opportunities. We are able to send profiles of people who have done the workshops to people in the industry and maybe try and find ways for them to be performing. And some of these artists have also opened for our Crave events. So as you can see, this is how one feeds into the other. We need more women queer artists so that we can have them play not just at Crave, but at like everywhere. And that would somehow bring into balance like the gender ratio on these lineups, to have more voices that are making decisions that are not just men. Hopefully have more people who are not men, cis men, who are like building spaces, opening clubs, but all of this needs to feed into each other. So now we can just look at the 3 editions that we did. So the first one was an artist conversation in the form of a performance. This was Ramaka and I, and it was a performance with Ramava Jogati and Shilpa Mudvi. And it's actually a conversation between 2 women, a trans woman and a cis woman, Shilpa, who Shilpa is very like urban, and Ramaka is from Bellary. And together they have a long relationship. They are like sisters. They have been working together for over a decade, and they talk about the clear difference between being from these two different backgrounds and occupying the same space in the music industry. So their banter goes in between laughter and pain and talking about caste, gender, class, and the rural-urban divide that shaped their lives. And it was a very beautiful performance, which was very moving. You can look at some pictures. Yeah, they spoke about their instruments, how they learned them, how they started. Their stories are completely different, but they keep merging with each other. You can look at the next picture. This was hosted at Story Culture in Goa. And this was the first edition of Flower Tools under the platform that this grant was for. We had about 80 people attend at the end of the session, which was a 90-minute performance, which was not just conversations, it was also songs that Shilpa learned from her grandmother, and Ramaka also taught Shilpa, and they both sing together. And at the end of it, Ramaka also did a small ritual, which was another renewal ritual. And we had a Q&A, like a very informal Q&A. Yeah, so this was the first edition. And we've been looking at doing more of these that are just not only in the electronic music space, but also outside of it. So this was the first one that we did in this kind of space that was in like a folk-centric space. Okay, so the next edition we did was beginner level music production workshop. This was a 2-day workshop and it was facilitated by Prutu, also a producer. He goes by Ecolog. At the end of the 2 days, the participants got to play their tracks in a very good sound system at the club. We also had 4 other artists who are already performing, producing, making music, come and play sets of their own music, their own original music, so that the participants who have spent 2 full days learning can look at the varied possibilities in which they can explore music. And we also had like a hangout with other producers. We can look at some pictures, but during this workshop, we were 7 participants and all of them learned to create a song from scratch. And in the process of learning to create one song, they learned how to work with rhythm, sound, sampling, various parts of, and this was done using Ableton, which is like the most used software for music production. And it was conducted at the Loft in Goa. So they gave us a space where we could just be ourselves and learn from each other. It was an intimate gathering. We try not to have more than 7 to 8 participants so that each person gets enough attention, individual attention. And this last image that you're looking at is from the producer showcase in the club, where on the left is Ecolog showing his work and also playing out some of the participants' tracks. And on the right, we have Fursat FM, who produces music. We also showcase Katya, who goes by Skulk. And it was the day of her album launch. So we sat and listened to her entire album together. And then we had Sequence, who's also a producer, and Hakim, etc., who showed their work. The third edition was a free, like a DJ workshop. It was a beginner level of DJ workshop. Again, it was a 2-day workshop. I facilitated this one. And for all the workshops, we put out an open call and people register, and then we select whoever works with the facilitator and their style of music, whether it's for production or for DJing. And again, there were 7 participants who got finalized. And we had 2 days of learning, very extensive learning. Each person was able to, by the end of it, understand how to play a DJ set from start to end, understand the history of DJing and music and nightlife. Also, we did portfolio photographs of them. You can see we also had a guest DJ, Hakim, etc., who came and played later during the participant showcase. Each participant played for 20 to 25 minutes each, where for the first time they played their DJ sets and they zoned in on a certain genre, the one that they're most comfortable with or the one they have most experience with listening. Yeah, it was a lot of fun. They got to invite all their friends and family, and we basically had a party where each of them played 25-minute sets, and in the end we had Hakim, etc. as a guest DJ. We also invited a bunch of local queer and women DJs to come to the loft again. It happened at the loft. You can go to the next slide also. This was part of the portfolio shoot for their electronic press kit, because if you have to get into the industry, we need images that can go on posters. So we took images of all the participants with different moods. These are the posters we made. So we make posters for them that they can share on their Instagram. We share, and they can share with their friends and family. You can look at their DJ names that they all came up with and the genres in which they were going to be playing their sets. Yeah, some images from the showcase, which also goes into the electronic press kit. We're still ongoing, like we have the mentorship ongoing, so we help them to write their bios, record sets, so that we can, have them go to the next level. Yeah, we can move through some of these images. So we hire a professional photographer to do these bits. We also have videos of them. All of this is important to start getting booked in the industry. So yeah, these are all the participants. It was a real blast. And now some of them are playing. They get together, they throw parties together and play. And a couple of our Flower Tool participants, whom we call Flowers, have also played at Crave. So yeah. The last thing we did with this grant is sensitization workshops, which was a huge part of making Crave reach where it is right now, and also Flower Tool. So these workshops that we're working with the venues and promoters and the event teams that are part of the event to build more inclusive, welcoming, and respectful nightlife environment. And we did 3 workshops with the loft with the help of this grant. And we did gender and LGBTQI inclusion. We spoke about the need of community and understanding why chosen family is important, why party space is important for queer people, why gathering is important. We also have, processes, care processes. We've been able to have things like things that support nightlife, like electrolytes, earplugs, glow bands for people who do not want to be photographed in case they're not out to their families, gender neutral washrooms, all of these things, like we slowly started introducing after working with the law. And just understanding what it means to have a safe dance floor and what that can feel like. We also spoke about history of electronic music and rave culture, and these workshops were done for all the management, the owners, the bartenders, the staff, even the hotel staff, the ballet boys, the cleaner boys, everybody. And I think in doing these workshops, we have built a really strong allyship with the loft. And since we've been working with them now, it just feels incomparable when we work with other venues who have not received these kinds of sensitization workshops. And now it looks like more and more we will be working with loft because they just come on board. We can look at the next slide. These are some of the events we did afterwards. We also did a new format called long form, which was from 4 p.m. to 6 a.m. And it was a poolside event for about 6 hours, and then a club night. So we also had a lot of queer and trans folks in the swimming pool, and Berod on the long form is one of our flowers. Yeah, so it's been really special working with the law. And all of this has now culminated into going to a new space. So now that we have all these producers who make all this music, we need to find a way to put it out. And so we reached this point where we are launching Crave Records. And that has actually happened because of doing a bunch of flower tools. And also this grant has really pushed towards coming to this point where we will be like soon having a record label where we can showcase queer, trans, and women artists. And can we listen to one of the tracks that was made at our Flower Tools workshop? So this track was made by Simar, one of our participants from the Flower Tools workshop. Each of them made their own tracks, and we still have like communication with all of us where they're sharing things that they are continuously making. And yeah, I have played this track in one of my DJ sets, so it's quite a nice track, yeah. So that's it, thank you.
Thank you, Avril, for sharing all the photographs of all the sessions, which gives us a picture of how these gatherings look like. And finally, we ended with at a peppy note with a wonderful electronic dance music. So thank you for sharing what your process has been. And it's extremely important that you shared about the sensitization workshop, which is about making all the stakeholders aware of the safety in a cultural phenomenon like this. So let's move on to a brief discussion about our arts platforms this year. So let me start with Anurupa. So Anurupa, you have an experience of nearly 3 decades of energizing field of puppetry in India. So let me ask you, is there anything that surprised you in this edition of the
Actually, many things. One was this overwhelming support from the community. I really didn't expect it. Not just the lab community, but we were looking for a space to do the lab at, and some place where everyone could breathe. Everyone had multiple little places to experiment with, and BBO just came forward and said, here's our theater space, just use it. Then I remember during the festival, we said, okay, everyone's welcome to come. We need people to work, volunteer to play the puppets when the audience is sitting down. And the number of people who just came forward. And I think my biggest surprise was that we were a little short of funds for the Fringe Festival. And we hadn't shared this with anyone yet. And suddenly, between the alumni and some of the past program students just started to send donations, because we had this, it was all created through crowdfunding, and that was very overwhelming. It was really incredible that people believed in the lab and the festival. So that was very surprising, and honestly very moving. The other thing was, given the first lab, where people created a huge volume of work, so there were multiple sketches, multiple projects. This time, the group was so focused on creating one performance each. So while we had about 18 participants in the first lab and we got about 12 pitches, we had 12 participants and got 11 pitches. So that was also a big surprise. I didn't expect that we'll have, a full day of pitching at a jury. Both were very exciting. I think that people were so serious about, I have to create something because this is an opportunity to make something new, and test it, and have an audience and have a lot of people to discuss ideas with. So that was very nice. Yeah.
Thank you, Anurupa. It's very endearing that you shared the power of artists coming together in moments of need. Let me ask Avril, you have been in the music production and DJing for a very long time. So in this edition of Arts Platforms, do you have any surprises anything that you want to share?
Yeah, I think for me, the main thing is to see people when they have like a space that is like safe to produce or to learn to be vulnerable. You were also there in one of our workshops, and that was a very special place to see how much people are willing to push themselves and learn. And making music is not, it's a bit of a vulnerable space to be able to like share with others. And so I think I was really shocked with the sounds that were coming out, and also like the queer audacity that was coming out, and the way people were, because I've been in other workshops where it does feel a little bit like, okay, we have to be careful. But I think over here, to see how free people were feeling to be able to do, like all our participants, I think that was a really special thing. And I was taken aback, even in the showcase, how people were like dancing to their tracks and screaming. I think that was good. Yeah.
Thank you, Avril. So we have a lot of questions in the Q&A box. First
Yeah, there
one
are a
is
lot of
from Yes.
No, sorry, John. I was just going to say, yeah, a lot of questions about the arts practice program, about arts platforms, about how you all applied to the program. So yeah, go ahead, John.
So first question from an anonymous attendee. Okay, she has some logistical questions. Was the whole lab vendor fees, grants to the four cohort members especially, and festival financially sustained through this particular grant? I think it's a question addressed to Anurupa. So it's not just IFA support, the venue partners.
Do you want me to answer that?
Yes, please.
Yes,
So,
please do.
the IFA grant, the platform grant, essentially covered the lab, which was 15 days, and had all the participants working together, and some of them also living together. So it covered all the costs of the lab, the food, the material, all the facilitators, the mentors, the jurists. The festival is, like I said, crowdfunded mostly. And the two venues, Black Box Ukla gave us the venue to do the lab, and Goethe Institute gives us the venue to do the Fringe Festival. The Fringe Festival is also ticketed. So essentially, this is how it works. But like I said, people who came and worked at the festival did it entirely voluntarily, which is the Katkatha team, which is the previous lab's alumni, the present lab's members who were free, weren't performing, and generally people from the artist community. So a lot of it is in kind, a lot of it is people's, goodwill. And also, like I said, these donations appeared last minute, which enabled the festival to have some certain technical things which we just didn't have the budget for. So yeah, that was how it runs.
I'm going to ask you a few more logistical questions. People are very curious about the lab that you hosted, Anurupa. So someone's asking, did you decide to host the festival before the lab, or did the festival develop organically from your interactions? But I think you've answered that in the way it was designed itself.
Yeah, the festival is very much a part of the lab. Even in the previous one, the idea of the festival is that only new work would be presented there. And we try that all the work that is presented is also supported through mentorship, through the small seed grant. The seed grant is often crowdfunded as well. Both the last time and this time they came from crowdfunding. So, and then they are mentored through the creation process, both by each other. The whole team reflects on each other's work, as well as the mentors they choose to work. Yes.
And this is for both of you actually. While I know it's for Anurupa, but I think it's valid question for both. Kumo Rodriguez is curious whether your facilitator was finalized when you were applying for the project, or did things evolve as the project unfolded? And because you knew who your artist was, a selected artist, what did you then decide the facilitators through that process? First to Anurupa, and then Avril, for you as well. Were all your facilitators or on board, or did it evolve through the project? Over to you, Anurupa. Yeah.
Okay, in our case, some were already pre-decided. But when the participants came in, for example, there was a demand for a certain kind of music facilitation. So we made the choice at that point that, okay, this kind of musician is what we need for the lab to mentor the students. Similarly, light designing for puppetry is something that came up. Also certain kind of dramaturgy questions started to emerge. So it always happens that you have a list of people, but there were additions. Many decided to work with choreography, so we brought in a choreographer to work with them. So it's a little bit of both.
There is a question from an anonymous attendee.
No, I want Avril to also respond to her process.
Sorry,
Yeah. No, it's totally fine. No, so for me, most of the facilitators were pre-decided based on budget, mainly the fact that they needed to be queer or women facilitators, and they needed to be in Goa. So yeah, the facilitators were pre-decided for the flower tools on my end. Yeah.
Yeah. And one of the things I'm just interjecting, John, and asking a question to Avril. One of the things I think that struck me about your project is that you spent a lot of time with clubs and spaces to work on care and sensitivity. And that's something that's ongoing. And I think it's really interesting that that was also built into the project.
Yeah.
And so if you could share a little bit more with the audience.
Yeah, so for me that's been a huge part of Crave anyway from the beginning. Even in our club nights, it's been crucial because dance floor safety is something that if we had, I think the club space would feel different. But I think if we had more women and queer people in club spaces, dance floor safety would automatically be inbuilt into the system, right? We will be thinking about these things. So I think working with the loft, for example, has really pushed us to think about these things, not just us, even the loft now, and other parties whom we collaborate with and do things together. So all of us are continuously thinking about this now. So I think that kind of ripple effect was really important. Even when it came to certain incidents, uh, I'm always feeling like I'm the only one trying to figure it out. And like, I can't talk to anyone at the venue. I don't know if they will show up for me or not. But at the loft, they take it on. I don't have to get myself involved in that part of, so that's been a huge, huge thing off my plate that we now have a care crew of around 8 of us, a bunch, like at least 6 are from the loft who have been trained under me. So we wear care crew t-shirts, all of us. So to be able to have these things in place is like, it's been an ongoing effort, but because I could put this into the grant and found different people who work in nightlife, not just me, to come and facilitate these workshops. It's been wide and not just my point of view. We've had musicians, we've had people working in the industry in Berlin, and had experience in club nights to come and talk. So yeah.
And thank you. Thank you for sharing. And I think for both projects, both Anurupa's, of course, we've known Anurupa's work. We've supported Anurupa through various iterations, but I think just to share with the audience, like art platforms is also about creating solidarity, is about creating mechanisms of care while we're bringing practitioners together. So to also, foreground that aspect of bringing and building community for each of their practices, which they're done, whether it's puppetry or building, you've built a community. And the fact that the alumni came back to support says a lot for what communities we're building. So, and that's the aspiration for arts platforms as well. Yeah. John, there are a lot of questions about what's the difference between arts platform and arts practice grants. A lot of potential applicants, I'm assuming, wanting to understand IFA's programs. If you'd like to share.
Yeah, thank you, Menika, for highlighting the care aspect of arts platforms category. It's an important question. What's the difference between IFA Arts Platform and IFA Arts Practice? So Arts Practice is the name of the program. And there are 4 categories within it: productions, explorations, arts platforms, and seminars. So arts platforms is one of the categories within the arts practice program. And the practice program is for artists to expand their present range of practices in new directions, and platforms particularly is for creating situations of bringing artists together to build solidarity, to respond to social political impulses, to learn together, to energize each other's practices, to aggregate artistic energies in various ways that we saw in the presentations by Anurupa and Avril.
Again, somebody wants to know, John, if a festival is planned for this December and the work has already started, does it qualify for application?
It's a very important question because a lot of artists come up with ongoing projects, but in the proposal writing, it is important to distinguish what is the radical departure that you're making during the project period, if your project is selected. So in writing, you have to expand and comprehensively narrate how the project will be accelerated once the project starts. Menaka, do you want to add something to that point?
No, no, not at all. Not at all. I mean, yeah, so even if something's happening in December, maybe you've started the initial process, but the funds that IFA will extend to you will only be for when the project period starts. So, if it's November, it'll start from November. So the activities and whatever you've planned will start from that time. Also, to add to the audience, I mean, if you have questions for Anurupa or Avril, do ask them, but you can also follow them. My colleague Darshana has shared their Instagram pages to the Katkata puppetry page and also to the Crave official page as well. John, would you like to take the last question or would you like me to answer it? An anonymous attendee is asking, how many projects will IFA be choosing for arts platforms this year? And how is a panel jury chosen to pick up from the applicant submissions?
So this year, we will be selecting 3 projects for implementation. So last year we had received around 150 final proposals, out of which we selected 3 for final project implementation. And so there is a shortlisting process. So the IFA team has internal evaluation process in which around out of the 150 proposals that came in, we discuss around 60 in the shortlist, and finally we make a final shortlist of around 10 artists to be interviewed by a panel of experts. And the panel and jury depends upon the composition of the final selected set of artists who will be interviewed. So their expertise depends upon the variety of disciplines that will be there. Selection of final set of artists.
Thank you, John, for answering that. And I think that's all the questions we had today. Another person had asked in the chat and I'd responded to them. They wanted to know if you need to be a trust or an organization to apply for projects. And I just want to say no. IFA supports only individuals under this program. And so you can apply across all our programs and also for arts platforms as an individual. You don't need to be registered formally as an organization or trust. Avril, over to you. You have your hands raised.
Yes, I also wanted to mention that it was such a joy working with John. It really was so fun, John. Thank you so much for just being there through the whole process. Even with the paperwork, I'm so bad at it. And it's like John really helped me through it. So I think that needs a special mention over here that, thank you, John.
Thank you,
And
Avril.
John also came to Goa for one of the workshops. So for you to be here and to see what we're doing, I think it was
great.
to mention.
Thank you, Avril. It was great to come to go and participate in that Ableton workshop with Ecologue.
Yeah.
It's like
John is making really good music also now.
We have to listen to that today.
It's like culture shock for me.
But yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Avril. It was
also
quite
thank you.
enlightening.
Yeah, thank you to Avril and Anurupa for creating these spaces as well, and for taking, to having this commitment to take practice forward in each of your fields. There are 2 more things that have come. How long does the selection process take?
So the call is ending on end of August, and the final interviews will be happening in the month of November. So in between, we have internal selection process. So 3 months. 3 months.
Yeah. And anonymous attendee wants to know, can an individual apply with 2 projects, submit 2 proposals?
At your own risk. Well, it makes sense to focus on one project and comprehensively develop one proposal than dividing our attention between multiple projects. That's my personal feeling about it. What do you think, Menaka?
Yes, yes, absolutely. Best to, I mean, ideally, we encourage people to apply with one proposal. That would be the best approach. Of course, there may be other individuals who can apply, and you may be a collaborator. We understand the community is, small, so there could be a third, very different project. But yeah, we encourage single applications. I think that's it. John, any parting questions or comments you'd like to share?
Something that Anurupa mentioned, as in there were visual artists who were first-time puppeteers who came to the lab. Would you like to share what has been the most rewarding experience for you to engage with artists who don't have puppetry experience before and now initiating them to this discipline?
I think it was incredible. They are the biggest risk takers. They don't follow rules of puppet theater. And anybody who doesn't follow rules, they're truly liberated, right? So they were, you know, coming and taking everything apart and reinventing things. And I feel like they inspired the practicing puppeteers a lot to just say, oh, why didn't I think of it like this? You know, why did I always think a puppet is this or that? So designers, musicians, visual artists, really questioned everything, including the facilitators. I think a lot of us learned so much and went away with, oh, I'm going to copy that. That's such a great idea. What is very exciting, I also feel, is that it doesn't finish with the lab and the fringe, you know. We all met again this Sunday, so many were online, and about 15 of us met in New Delhi, and some actually took train tickets to travel to New Delhi and stop by. And the group has decided, the two groups, that they're going to meet every 2 months, really to do this kind of technical exchange, you know, to say, hey, I have a big puppet question. How do I solve this? People feel like they also want to test new shows or new ideas in front of an audience. And very importantly, they want to share archives of work. You know, how does work develop? Which has come from the visual artists. So puppeteers never do this. They make the show, they forget about it, they don't photograph it, they do one final video and they're happy enough. It's the visual artists who are teaching us, no, hang on, save the storyboard, keep the sketches, first sketches of the puppets, put them in a folder, take photos of it. And I think I really appreciate that. And two of them have really pinned us down and said, listen, every performance you make, we want to see that you're doing all of this documentation, and that's what should be presented at these, you know, bi-monthly meetings. So I think this is a very exciting way forward. It has brought a certain discipline from the visual arts to us, which was long. It should have happened many, many years ago. Yeah.
It's important how different disciplines, when they come together, it's a lot to learn from each other. And to Avril, I want to explain, when I use the word culture shock, I mean in a good way. So it's something totally new for me. I came with openness to learn. For me, it's like literacy to electronic music and the progressive aspect of that art world. So it's like Ecologue has been very, very generous in sharing theory, music theory, as well as hand-holding us through each step of electronic music production. And it's like the world opened up for me. So,
yeah, Ecologue loves to teach and he loves creating curriculums and all of that. So he was a great choice for this 2-day workshop. And he's still in touch with all the participants with doubts going back to him. And yeah, because I think Goa nightlife is a small scene. We keep seeing each other. So I wish you were also around, John.
But I met Ecologue again in Kochi.
Yeah.
When he came to perform in Kochi, because in the last edition of Kochi Biennale, there was a dimension of liveness and sound art.
Yes.
So it's like a great continuity from the art platforms, flower tools, to that dimension of Kochi Biennale this year.
Yeah. But that's my main thing with the facilitators and when picking them, like, will they be able to continuously provide this kind of mentorship at any point? If someone comes back to you, will you be available? And if they say yeah, then we can work together. Yeah. Thank you.
So if there are no more questions, then please join me in thanking Anurupa and Avril for such a wonderful, peppy evening of artist presentations about Arts Platforms program. And I want to announce that the call for application is still open for Arts Platforms and the deadline is August 31st. So please share your proposals with us. Over to you, Menaka.
Yeah, and also to add, yes, please apply for arts platforms. It's open, but we also have calls open under the Archives and Museums program to work with the Bhimtal Folk Culture Museum in Uttarakhand. And you can apply if you're a teacher working with a government school in Karnataka, you can apply with arts projects to IFA as well. So thank you so much, Anurupa, Avril, for sharing your process. We heard a lot about it through John's participation in it, and it's been lovely to see your projects unfold. And thank you so much for your generous time in sharing it with our audiences today as well. Also to share that we have our next project showcase is next week in Bangalore. It's a physical project showcase, August 27th at Sabha. 7 p.m. It's an exhibition. It will be open over the weekend, 27th to the 29th. So stay tuned. Follow us on Instagram and reach out to us for if there are more queries, you can write to John about the platforms category. Thank you, everyone, and have a good evening.
One quick last question, John.
Yes, please.
It's in the Q&A.
That's what I meant. The person can write to John, but so someone wants to know: do you expect a written proposal, or can it be a creative one?
Thank you for that question. Yeah, so written proposal is very important. It's important to have that aspect of the proposal, but to supplement that written proposal, you can also include creative aspects like audio recordings and video recordings. So the answer is, there has to be a written proposal.
Just to add to the person who asked the question, we are a public charitable trust, and therefore we have processes that we need to follow. So like John said, a written proposal with timeline and budgets are important, but creative supplements are always welcome. It gives us a sense of you and your practice as well. So thank you. And like I mentioned, I know a lot of you have a lot of questions. Do reach out to IFA, reach out to contact us at indiaifa.org or reach out to John, and we are happy to answer your questions. So thank you once again, everyone, and have a very, very good evening. And we're looking forward to receiving proposals by August 31st for Arts Platform.